The funeral, and the letter. It was raining the day my mother was buried. Not the kind of rain that comes with thunder and lightning, just a cold, steady rain that seemed determined to soak everything it touched. I stood beside her grave in a small cemetery outside Cedar Falls, Iowa, staring at the wooden coffin as it slowly disappeared beneath the earth. My name is Ethan Brooks. I'm 27 years old, and until that day, I thought I knew everything about my family. I was wrong. The funeral was small, a few neighbors, 2 distant relatives. My mother's best friend, Margaret. That was it. No brothers, no sisters, no father, no family history, just me. The only child of a woman who had spent her entire life avoiding questions about her past. As the last handfuls of dirt hit the grave, Margaret stepped beside me. Her eyes were red from crying. "Ethan," she said softly, "your mother asked me to give you something." She handed me a sealed envelope, old, yellowed. The paper looked decades old. Written across the front were 6 words, "Open only after my death." My stomach tightened. I turned the envelope over. The seal had never been broken. "What is this?" I asked. Margaret shook her head. "I don't know. She never told me. She only made me promise I'd give it to you after the funeral." The rain grew heavier. I stared at the envelope. For some reason, I suddenly didn't want to open it. Something about it felt wrong, dangerous. Like opening it would change something that could never be changed back. That night, I sat alone in my mother's house. The same house where I'd lived since childhood. The same kitchen. The same clock ticking above the refrigerator. The same silence. I placed the envelope on the table and stared at it. For nearly an hour, every instinct told me to leave it closed. But curiosity is a powerful thing, especially when the only person who can answer your questions is gone forever. Finally, I broke the seal. Inside was a single folded letter and an old photograph. My hands froze. The photograph showed a young woman, my mother. She looked barely 20 years old, standing beside a man I had never seen before. The 2 were holding a baby. A baby boy. Written on the back were 4 words, "Our son." Summer, 1998. My heart stopped. Summer 1998, the year I was born. I turned the photograph over again. The baby looked like me, exactly like me. I unfolded the letter with shaking hands. The handwriting was my mother's. The first sentence changed my life forever. It read, "Ethan, if you are reading this, then I have taken the biggest secret of our family to my grave." I felt my chest tighten. My eyes moved to the next line. And then the next. Every word felt heavier than the one before it, until I reached a sentence that made my blood run cold. "The man who raised you was never your father." I stopped breathing. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller, the walls closer. My entire life I'd believed my father died when I was 3 years old. That's what my mother had always told me. But according to this letter, that story was a lie, and the truth was far worse. The final line on the page said, "If you want answers, go to Blackwood Lake. Nothing else. No explanation, no address, no details." Just 3 words. Blackwood Lake. I stared at them for a long time. Then I looked back at the photograph, at the unknown man, at the baby, at my mother. And for the first time in my life, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know who I was. And somewhere out there, someone knew the truth. The road to Blackwood Lake. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the photograph, my mother, the unknown man, the baby, the words written on the back, "Our son." Summer 1998. By sunrise, my kitchen table was covered with old family albums. I searched through every photograph my mother had ever kept. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, school graduations, family vacations. But the man from the photograph appeared nowhere. It was as if he had been erased from existence. That terrified me more than anything. People don't simply disappear from every photograph, unless someone wants them forgotten. Around noon, I opened my laptop and searched for Blackwood Lake. Hundreds of results appeared, but one immediately caught my attention. Blackwood Lake, Minnesota. Population, 1,842. A tiny town, 3 states away. The same town listed on the back of an old utility bill I found hidden inside my mother's desk drawer. My heart started racing. For the first time, I had a real lead. I grabbed my keys. 3 hours. Later, I was driving north through endless stretches of highway. The sky was gray, the roads were nearly empty, and the closer I got to Blackwood Lake, the worse the feeling became. It felt like I was driving towards something I wasn't supposed to find. The town appeared just before sunset. A faded wooden sign stood beside the road. Welcome to Blackwood Lake. The paint was peeling. The sign looked decades old. Something about it immediately felt wrong. The town seemed frozen in time. Old buildings, quiet streets, very few people, no tourists, no traffic, just silence. I parked near a small diner on Main Street. The moment I stepped inside, conversation stopped. Every head turned toward me. I felt dozens of eyes studying me. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Then everyone slowly looked away, pretending nothing had happened. I sat at the counter. A waitress approached. Her name tag read Linda. "What can I get you?" she asked. "Just coffee." She nodded. As she poured the cup, I casually asked, "Have you lived here long?" "All my life." "I'm looking for someone." "Who?" I pulled the photograph from my pocket. The moment Linda saw it, her expression changed. Only for a second. But I noticed fear. Real fear. She quickly looked away. "Never seen them." I knew she was lying. "Are you sure?" "Positive." Her voice sounded rehearsed, as if she'd answered that question before. I left money on the counter. As I stood to leave, Linda suddenly grabbed my wrist. Her hand was trembling. "Listen carefully." "What?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You shouldn't ask about that family." My stomach tightened. "What family?" She released my wrist immediately, almost as if she'd said too much. "I never said anything." Then she walked away. That night I checked into the town's only motel, a rundown building overlooking the lake. Room 12. The receptionist barely spoke. The hallway smelled old. The wallpaper was peeling. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Around midnight, I heard footsteps outside my room. Slow, deliberate, back and forth, back and forth. I opened the door. The hallway was empty. But something sat on the floor. A small envelope. No stamp. No address. Just my name, Ethan, written in black ink. My pulse exploded. I looked around. Nobody, only silence. I picked up the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper. Nothing else, just one sentence, 7 words, words that made my blood turn cold. "He never wanted you to find him?" I stared at the message, unable to move, unable to breathe. Then I noticed something written on the back, a location, a place outside town, an abandoned cabin hidden deep within the forest, and suddenly I knew. Someone in Blackwood Lake knew exactly why I had come, and someone desperately wanted me to leave. The cabin. In the woods. I didn't sleep at all. The message sat on the motel desk. "He never wanted you to find him." I must have read those words 100 times. Who wrote them? How did they know I was here? And who exactly was he? The man in the photograph. Real father, or someone else entirely? At sunrise, I looked at the location written on the back of the note. The abandoned cabin was nearly 15 miles outside town, deep inside the forest. No roads, no houses, nothing nearby. The kind of place people choose when they don't want to be found. By 8 o'clock, I was driving down a narrow dirt road. Trees surrounded me on both sides. The deeper I went, the darker the forest became. Even though it was morning, the GPS signal disappeared. Then my phone lost service. A bad feeling settled in my stomach. I almost turned around. Almost. But after 27 years of lies, I needed answers. An hour later, I found it. The cabin, hidden among massive pine trees, old weather-beaten, abandoned. At least that's what it looked like. The windows were covered with dirt. The roof sagged in several places. Nature had nearly swallowed it. Yet something felt wrong. The front door was slightly open, as if someone had been here recently. I stepped out of the car. The forest was silent. No birds, no insects, nothing. Only the sound of wind moving through the trees. Slowly, I approached the cabin. My heart pounded harder with every step. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Dust filled the air. Sunlight slipped through cracks in the walls. The furniture was covered in white sheets. Everything looked frozen in time. Then I noticed something strange. The dust wasn't everywhere. Near the fireplace. Someone had walked recently, fresh footprints. My pulse exploded. I wasn't alone. Someone had been here. Maybe hours ago, maybe minutes ago. I followed the footprints. They led to an old wooden desk in the corner. The top drawer was locked, but taped underneath was a small brass key. My hands shook as I unlocked it. Inside was a black leather journal and a photograph. The moment I saw the picture, I nearly dropped it. It was the same man, the man standing beside my mother, but this photograph was different, much older, and written on the back was a name. Daniel Harper. For the first time, I had a name. I quickly opened the journal. The pages were filled with handwritten notes, dates, locations, names, but one entry caught my attention immediately. July 12th, 1998, the year I was born. I began reading. Every word made my heart beat faster. The journal described a woman, a young mother, running from dangerous people, trying to protect her child, trying to disappear, trying to survive. The woman was my mother. I knew it instantly. Then I reached a sentence that made my blood run cold. If anything happens to me, Ethan must never know the truth. My hands froze. The room suddenly felt smaller. Someone had written my name. 27 years ago. How? I turned the page. Another entry. Another shock. They are still looking for him. My breathing stopped. Who was looking and why? I kept reading. But before I could finish, a floorboard creaked behind me, not from the journal, not from the wind, from inside the cabin. Someone else was there. Slowly, I turned around. The room was empty, but the front door, which I clearly remembered leaving open, was now closed. Every hair on my body stood up. I wasn't alone, and whoever had closed that door wanted me to know it. Then I heard footsteps, outside, moving around the cabin. Slow, patient, watching, waiting. And suddenly I realized something terrifying. Someone knew I had found the journal. The name everyone feared. For several seconds, I stood frozen inside the cabin. The journal remained open in my hands. The door remained closed, and somewhere outside, someone was moving, slowly, carefully, watching. I grabbed the journal and photograph and backed toward a side window. The footsteps stopped. The silence that followed felt even worse. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Nothing. Then suddenly, a car engine started somewhere deep in the forest. A few moments later, it disappeared into the distance. Whoever had been outside was gone. Or at least, I hoped they were. I didn't stay another minute. I rushed back to my car and drove straight toward Blackwood Lake. The entire drive back, one name echoed through my mind. Daniel Harper. The man in the photograph. The man in the journal. The man connected to my mother. And somehow, connected to me. Back in town, I decided to try something different. Instead of asking strangers about Daniel Harper, I would find public records. There was only one library in Blackwood Lake, a small brick building near the center of town. The place looked forgotten, almost abandoned. Inside, an elderly librarian sat behind the desk. Her name tag read Evelyn. She looked at me for several seconds before speaking. "Can I help you?" I nodded. "I'm looking for information about someone." "Who?" I pulled out the photograph. The moment she saw Daniel Harper's face, the color drained from her skin, exactly like Linda at the diner. Fear. Again. Real fear. Evelyn immediately looked around to make sure nobody else was listening. Then she lowered her voice. "Where did you get that?" "I think he may be my father." Her eyes widened. For a moment she looked genuinely shocked. Then she whispered something unexpected. "You're not supposed to be here." The words sent a chill down my spine. "What does that mean?" Instead of answering, she stood up, locked the front door. closed the curtains, and returned carrying a dusty newspaper archive. She placed it on the table. Her hands were shaking. Daniel Harper wasn't just a man. What was he? She stared at the photograph, then slowly answered. He was the reason this town changed forever. My heartbeat accelerated. She opened an old newspaper. The date was August 1998, the year I was born. The headline covered nearly the entire page. Local man disappears after exposing secret network below. The headline was a photograph. Daniel Harper. The same face. The same man. My hands began trembling. What happened to him? Evelyn swallowed hard. Officially, he vanished. And unofficially, she looked toward the window, as if afraid someone might hear. Many people believe he was murdered. The room suddenly felt colder. Murdered by who? Evelyn hesitated, then slowly shook her head. That's the question nobody in this town asks anymore. I stared at her. Why? Because people who asked questions disappeared too. Silence filled the room. I wasn't sure whether to believe her. It sounded insane, like something from a movie, but the fear in her eyes was real. Then she opened another newspaper, another headline. This one dated only weeks before Daniel vanished. Whistleblower claims corruption. Inside Blackwood County, underneath the article, was a smaller photograph. Several men standing together, town officials, business owners, police officers. Then something caught my attention. One face, an older man standing in the background. I knew him, or rather, I had seen him before. Just yesterday, at the diner, sitting alone in the corner. Watching me, the same man, the same eyes, the same face. A cold wave of realization washed over me. Someone from Daniel Harper's past was still alive, and they were watching me. Suddenly, the library lights flickered, once, twice. Then the front door rattled violently. Both of us jumped. Someone was outside, trying to get in. Evelyn's face turned pale. She immediately grabbed the newspaper and shoved it back into the archive box. You need to leave. What? Right now. Tell me what's happening. Her voice became desperate. If they know you're asking about Daniel Harper. She stopped. The rattling grew louder. Bang! 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 Someone slammed a fist against the glass. Evelyn nearly panicked. Go! I rushed toward the back exit. Just before leaving, I turned around. Who are they? For a moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered 5 words, words I would never forget. The people who took Daniel. And suddenly I realized the mystery was much bigger than my family. Someone powerful had spent 27 years burying the truth. And now they knew I was digging it back up. The man who should have been dead. The moment I left the library, I knew I was being watched. Not because I saw anyone, because I could feel it. That strange feeling when your instincts start screaming before your eyes notice anything. The streets of Blackwood Lake were almost empty. Clouds hung low above the town. The air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. I kept replaying Evelyn's words. The people who took Daniel. Who were they? Why had they hidden the truth for 27 years, and why did everyone seem terrified of Daniel Harper's name? I reached my car and stopped. Across the street sat an old pickup truck. Inside was the same man. The man from the diner. The man from the newspaper photograph. The man who seemed to appear everywhere. This time he wasn't hiding. He was staring directly at me. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then suddenly, the truck pulled away. Fast. My heart jumped. Instinct took over. I jumped into my car and followed him. The chase led through the quiet streets of town, past old buildings, past empty houses, past places that seemed frozen in time. The truck eventually left town and headed toward the northern side of the lake. I stayed far enough behind to avoid being noticed. At least I thought I did. After 20 minutes, the truck turned onto a narrow gravel road, then disappeared behind a line of trees. I parked 100 yards away and continued on foot. The deeper I walked, the stranger things became. Hidden among the trees stood several abandoned buildings, old warehouses, broken fences, rusting equipment. It looked like an industrial site that had been forgotten decades ago. Then I saw the truck, parked beside the largest warehouse. The man stepped out. I quickly hid behind a stack of rusted barrels. The warehouse door opened. Another man emerged. Older. Tall, gray hair, expensive suit. The two began talking. I couldn't hear the words, but I could tell the conversation was serious. Then the older man handed over a large envelope. Money. A lot of money. My pulse quickened. Something illegal was happening. Suddenly, the older man looked directly toward my hiding place. For a terrifying second, I thought he'd seen me, but then he turned away. A few moments later, both men entered the warehouse. I waited. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Then I moved, carefully, quietly, toward the building. The side door wasn't locked. I slipped inside. Darkness. Dust, silence. The warehouse was enormous. Rows of shelves stretched into the shadows. Old machinery sat covered in dust. Then I heard voices. I followed them. Slowly, until I reached an office overlooking the warehouse floor. The door was slightly open. I looked through the gap. The two men were inside, and what I heard next changed everything. He's asking questions. The older man sounded angry. He was supposed to stay away. The truck driver nodded. I know. Then why is he here? I don't think he knows the truth yet. The older man slammed his fist onto the desk. He cannot find Daniel. My breathing stopped. Daniel. They were talking about Daniel Harper. The truck driver lowered his voice. After all these years. Maybe we should tell him. The older man's face turned cold. No. Daniel made his choice. Then came the sentence that shattered everything I believed. Daniel Harper is still alive. The room spun. For a second, I thought I had misheard. Alive? Impossible. Everyone believed he was dead. The town believed he was dead. My mother believed he was dead, or had she? The older man continued speaking. If Ethan finds him, he'll learn everything. My blood turned to ice. They knew my name. The truck driver sighed. We can't hide this forever. We only need a little longer. Then the office phone rang. The older man answered. His face immediately changed. Fear. Real fear. He listened silently, then hung up. What happened? The truck driver asked. The older man looked shaken. Someone broke into Daniel's cabin yesterday. My heart nearly stopped. The truck driver's eyes widened. Who? The older man slowly answered. Ethan Brooks. Silence filled the room. I backed away from the door, carefully, quietly, but my foot struck a loose metal pipe. Clang! The sound echoed through the warehouse. The conversation stopped instantly. Both men looked toward the door. My heart exploded. The older man's voice thundered across the room. Who's there? I ran, as fast as I could. Behind me came shouting, then footsteps. Heavy footsteps, chasing me. I sprinted through the dark warehouse. Past machinery, past shelves, past shadows. The exit was only yards away. Then suddenly, a voice shouted from behind me, a voice filled with panic. Not anger, not hatred, panic. Ethan, wait! I froze for half a second, because whoever shouted knew exactly who I was. And somehow, they sounded afraid for me, not of me. The recording. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. My lungs burned. My heart felt like it might explode. Behind me, the abandoned warehouse disappeared into the trees, but one sentence kept echoing inside my head. Daniel Harper is still alive. Alive. After 27 years. After all the lies. After all the secrets. Alive. I slammed the car door shut and sat there breathing heavily. Nothing made sense anymore. My mother had hidden the truth. The town had hidden the truth. And now strangers were discussing my life as if I were part of some secret they had protected for decades. Then my phone vibrated. I nearly jumped. Unknown number. For a moment I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Silence. A few seconds passed. Then a woman's voice, soft, nervous. Ethan? My body froze. Who is this? You don't know me. Then how do you know my name? The woman hesitated, then whispered, because your mother saved my life. My heart skipped a beat. What? You need to listen carefully. The fear in her voice was real. You're in danger. Who are you? My name is Rachel. Where are you? I can't explain over the phone. My frustration exploded. Everyone keeps saying that. Nobody tells me anything. I know. Her voice cracked. But your mother left something for you. I stopped breathing. What did you say? A recording. For several seconds I couldn't speak. A recording? From my mother? Where are you? Rachel gave me an address, an old church outside town. Then she added something strange. Come alone. The call ended. I stared at the phone. Every instinct told me it was a trap. But if there really was a recording, I had no choice. An hour later, I arrived at the church. The building looked abandoned. Broken windows, cracked walls, overgrown grass. Yet a single light glowed inside. I entered cautiously. The large sanctuary was empty. Rows of wooden benches stretched into darkness. Then I saw her, a woman in her 40s, brown hair, tired eyes, nervous expression. Rachel. She looked exactly like someone who had spent years looking over her shoulder. You came. I need answers. She nodded. I know. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then she opened an old backpack, carefully removed a small metal box, and placed it on the bench between us. My pulse exploded. The box looked old. Very old. I've been keeping this for 27 years. My throat tightened. What is it? Your mother's final insurance policy. Slowly, she opened the lid. Inside sat an old videotape and a photograph. The photograph showed my mother, Rachel, and Daniel Harper, standing together, smiling, looking happy, looking normal, like ordinary people, not people hiding from danger. What was going on? Rachel looked away, then answered. Your mother and Daniel discovered something. What? They discovered powerful people were stealing millions of dollars through fake development projects. My eyes widened. The same corruption Daniel had exposed, the same corruption from the newspapers. But that's not why they ran. Then why? Rachel swallowed hard. Because they found evidence connecting local officials to several disappearances. The room became silent. Suddenly the story felt far darker. This wasn't just corruption. People had vanished. People had died. Rachel slowly handed me the tape. Watch it. Nearby sat an old television and VHS player. My hands shook as I inserted the tape. The screen flickered. Static filled the room. Then an image appeared. My mother, 27 years younger. She was crying. The moment I saw her face, my chest tightened. She looked directly into the camera and spoke. Ethan. I nearly stopped breathing. It felt like hearing a ghost. If you're watching this, then I failed. Tears filled my eyes. My mother continued. There are things I never told you, things I hoped you'd never need to know. She looked exhausted, terrified, like someone constantly looking over her shoulder. Then she said something that changed everything. Daniel Harper is not your father. The world stopped. For a second, I couldn't even process the words. Not my father? Then who was? My mother continued speaking. The truth is much more dangerous. Rachel looked at me nervously. She already knew what was coming. I didn't, and somehow that made it worse. Then suddenly the television screen went black. The tape stopped. Static filled the room. I stared in disbelief. No. No. The tape had ended right before revealing the truth. My hands trembled. My mother had almost answered the biggest question of my life. Almost. Then Rachel slowly spoke. There was a second tape. I turned toward her instantly. What? A second recording. Where is it? Rachel's face turned pale, and then she delivered the worst possible answer. They took it.
The second tape. For several moments, I simply stared at Rachel. The church felt silent. Too silent. My mother's face was still frozen on the television screen. The final words echoed inside my head. Daniel Harper is not your father. Every answer seemed to create 10 more questions. I looked at Rachel. Who took the second tape? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked toward the church windows, as if expecting someone to be watching. Finally, she spoke. The same people who spent 27 years hiding the truth. My frustration exploded. Who are they? Rachel closed her eyes. The Blackwood Group. The name meant nothing to me, but the fear in her voice did. What is the Blackwood Group? It started as a group of local businessmen and officials. And now? Rachel swallowed hard. Now there's something else. The way she said it made my skin crawl. "Where is the second tape?" Rachel hesitated, then slowly removed a folded map from her bag. She spread it across the bench. One location was circled in red, an old lakeside house. Abandoned, hidden deep on the eastern side of Blackwood Lake. My pulse quickened. "The tape is there." Rachel nodded. "It was hidden years ago." "Who hid it?" "Daniel." The name hit me like a punch. Daniel, still alive. Somewhere. Waiting. Hiding. Running. Just like my mother, I grabbed the map. "I'm going." Rachel immediately grabbed my arm. "No." "What? You're being followed." I froze. The fear in her eyes was genuine. "They know you're looking. They've known since you arrived." The room suddenly felt colder. For the first time, I realized how much danger I might actually be in, but I had come too far to stop. That night, under heavy rain, I drove toward the eastern shore of Blackwood Lake. The road was almost invisible. The storm had become violent. Lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder shook the windows. Then I saw it. The house, old, dark, half hidden among trees. The same kind of place secrets survive. I parked far away and approached on foot. Rain soaked my clothes. Mud covered my boots. The front door hung open, exactly like the cabin, and immediately I knew. Someone had been here recently. I stepped inside. The house smelled damp and forgotten, broken furniture, collapsed ceilings, rotting walls. But something stood out. A bookshelf. Unlike everything else, it was clean, almost untouched. I moved closer. Behind one of the books was a hidden latch. My heartbeat accelerated. I pulled it. Click. Part of the bookshelf slid open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside sat a metal box. The second tape. For several seconds, I simply stared. 27 years. 27 years of lies. And now the truth sat inches away. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Then a voice echoed from the darkness. "Don't." I spun around. A figure stood at the far end of the room, hidden in shadow, holding a flashlight. For a moment, I couldn't see his face. Then he stepped forward, older. Gray hair, tired eyes, a scar across his cheek. And something about him felt familiar. Very familiar. The man looked at me. Not with anger. Not with fear, but with sadness. Then he spoke. A sentence that stopped my heart. "You have your mother's eyes." The world seemed to freeze. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't think. The man slowly lowered the flashlight. Tears filled his eyes, and then he said the words I never expected to hear. "My name is Michael Reed." Silence. Rain hammered the roof. Thunder rolled outside. I stared at him. "What does that mean?" His voice broke. "It means..." He struggled to continue. "It means I'm your father." The room spun. Everything blurred, every belief. Every memory, every assumption, destroyed in a single sentence. Daniel wasn't my father. Michael Reed was. My mother had told the truth. The truth was more dangerous, far more dangerous. Because if Michael Reed was my father, then why had Daniel protected me? Why had everyone lied? And why had my mother hidden Michael's existence? Michael looked at the tape in my hands. Then at me. His expression turned serious. "Ethan." "What? If you watch that tape, you'll understand everything." A loud sound interrupted him. Outside, car doors slamming, multiple vehicles. Michael's face instantly turned pale. "They found us!" My pulse exploded. "Who?" Michael grabbed my shoulder. "The people who killed your mother." For several seconds, I couldn't even process the words. Killed? My mother didn't die naturally? Then came flashlights, moving through the windows, voices outside, searching, closing in. Michael looked directly into my eyes and whispered, "Now you know why I stayed hidden." The truth. The flashlights moved closer. Voices echoed outside the house. Rain hammered the roof. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Michael grabbed my arm. "We have minutes." Maybe less. He pointed toward an old television sitting in the corner. "Watch the tape." My hands trembled as I inserted the second VHS tape. The screen flickered. Static filled the room. Then, my mother appeared, older than before, more exhausted, more frightened. She looked directly into the camera. and immediately began crying. "Ethan, if you're seeing this, then Michael finally trusted you with the truth." I looked toward Michael. He stared silently at the floor. My mother continued, "The man you know as Daniel Harper was never your father. He was my friend, my protector, the man who helped save your life." I felt my throat tighten. Then came the biggest revelation yet. "Your real father is Michael Reed." I looked toward him again. This time I believed it, every feature, every expression. For the first time, I could see the resemblance. My mother's voice continued. 27 years ago, we uncovered evidence against powerful people in Blackwood County. Photographs appeared on the screen. Documents, bank records, construction contracts, secret payments. My mother continued speaking. They stole public money. They destroyed lives. And when Daniel exposed them, they decided to silence everyone involved. The room became completely silent. Then came the next shock. They murdered 3 witnesses. My heart stopped. 3 people, killed because they knew the truth. My mother wiped tears from her eyes. Daniel wanted to go public. Michael wanted us to disappear. Both were right. Then she looked directly into the camera and said something that shattered me. The day Ethan was born. They tried to kill us. I couldn't breathe, my mother continued. Michael saved our lives. The screen changed. Security footage appeared, a grainy recording, a hospital parking lot, several armed men approaching a vehicle. Chaos. Running, shouting. Then a young Michael Reed pulling my mother into a car and escaping. The footage ended. I stared at the screen, unable to process what I had just seen, my entire childhood, my entire identity, built upon secrets. Then came the final revelation, the ultimate truth. The truth nobody expected. My mother looked into the camera. Daniel Harper didn't disappear. I froze. My pulse exploded. She continued. He volunteered to disappear. What? The word escaped my mouth before I could stop it. My mother continued. Daniel became the distraction. He allowed everyone to believe he was the target, so Michael, Ethan, and I could survive. Suddenly, everything made sense. The fake death, the missing records, the lies. Daniel hadn't been hunted. He had sacrificed his entire life. For us. Then my mother smiled through tears, a sad smile, the smile of someone who had carried a burden for too long. Ethan. If you're watching this, then you've already won. I frowned. Won? What did that mean? Then she answered. Everything is online. My heart skipped. What? The evidence, the documents, the recordings, the bank transfers, everything. I turned toward Michael. He slowly nodded. We uploaded everything years ago. My mother smiled. If anything happened to us, the truth would eventually be released. Suddenly shouting erupted outside. The Blackwood group had arrived. Windows shattered. Flashlights flooded the room. Michael immediately stood. It's time. What? He smiled. For the first time, a genuine smile. The truth doesn't belong to them anymore. Then police sirens echoed across the lake. 1, then 2, then dozens. Blue and red lights illuminated the darkness. The Blackwood group wasn't coming to arrest us. The police were coming for them. Michael looked toward the window. They finally found the evidence. Outside, chaos erupted. Officers surrounded the property. Arrests began. Men ran. Some surrendered. Some tried to escape. None succeeded. 27 years of lies collapsed in a single night. The screen continued playing. My mother's final message. Ethan, I know you'll be angry. I know you'll have questions. But everything I did because I loved you. Tears filled my eyes, for the first time since her death. I cried, not because she was gone, because I finally understood. She hadn't hidden the truth because she didn't trust me. She hid it because she wanted me alive. Then came her final words. Words I would never forget. The truth can be buried, but it can never stay buried forever. The screen faded to black. Months later, the story became national news. Corrupt officials were arrested. Millions of dollars were recovered. Families finally learned what happened to their missing loved ones. Daniel Harper emerged from hiding, For the first time in nearly 3 decades, a free man, and for the first time in my life, I knew exactly who I was. Not because of secrets, not because of lies, but because of the people who sacrificed everything to protect me. The mystery was over. The truth had finally come home. The end.